Oh, there we are. Greetings, folks. Here we are again.
In this godforsaken place.
Well, I don't know. I like my basement pretty well.
Oh, you're not.
I mean, not that well, but you know.
You're not in the shop.
I'm not. The shop is actually open tonight, so.
Just an FYI, we are live right now.
Excellent. Excellent. And we have full-ish complement of people. We are 6:29. Well, it appears that we have a full-ish complement of folks. So I would call to order the fourth regular meeting of the that seems a little odd, doesn't it? Regular meeting of the Board of Directors of SAD 52. And I would also like to lead us all in the pledge as well. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, indivisible, under God.
No.
No.
One nation.
Indivisible. But so some irony there, clearly, that I messed up that part. One nation, indivisible.
Start again.
Yes. Go, start it over.
We'll do it with you, Betsy.
Please, yes. This does not bode well for the rest of the evening. My internet connection is not bailing me out of this one. I pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag
Flag
Of
of the United States of America.
of America and
And
to the republic for which
which
it
it stands,
One
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with
liberty and justice
for all.
Wow. Thanks, everybody, for the support on that. And I apologize for it's been that kind of week, hasn't it?
No.
So our first order of business is to act on the minutes of September 10th. Any errors or omissions noted on these? Where's Teresa? Teresa, refresh my memory. Did we go through and do a roll call vote on the minutes as well?
I
when we did
believe we
this?
did.
Okay. So just to get everybody, remind everybody back up to speed, we will need, since we are remote, we will need to roll call votes for everything, since just a show of blinking screens is not, does not strike the legal eagles as adequate enough. So generally minutes we accept under general consent, but again, we'll do this with a roll call vote as well. So we, when anybody, and just occasionally it'll look like I'm super confused. I am, but that sometimes you move around on the screen. I'm sure everybody's familiar enough with Zoom at this point that you understand that. But Richard.
Yes.
Megan.
I'm here, sorry.
Excellent. Crystal.
Yes.
Thank you. Where are we? Yuri.
Yes.
Thank you. Jessica.
Yes.
Joanne is here someplace. I thought I saw her on the screen earlier. Maybe not. Let's try Carlos then.
What did I walk into? Sorry, I had to re-download the Zoom app on my phone. I thought we were done with this.
Well, anyways, we are acting on the minutes of September 10th.
Okay. Yeah, they're fine as far as I know.
Thank you. Did we re-find Joanne? Not so much. And who did I miss? I missed somebody.
Jill.
Jill.
Here.
Excellent. Thank you.
Betsy, just an FYI, Joanne was in very early, but was having all kinds of laggy problems, so we might have lost her for a while.
Okay. So we'll just hold on that one, but we do have a quorum certainly, so we can continue on. So Teresa, did you get where did you go? You're up in the right-hand corner.
I'm here. Yes, I've got it.
Fabulous. Thank you. Whew. So that brings us to item 3, communications. Kim.
Thank you. So I would like to report the following resignations. Dylan Stefani, Turner Elementary School Special Education ASP EdTech 3. That was effective September 17th. Also, Wanda Young, Levitt Area High School Food Service Assistant, effective September 16th. And I would like to report the following transfer. Chris Marston from Tripp Middle School Special Education EdTech 2 in the Inspire program to Special Education EdTech 3 in the Functional Life Skills program.
Thank you. Adjustments to the agenda.
There are none.
Also, thank you. That brings us to committee reports. Finance, where's Yuri?
We did not
Kim?
meet this week.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Randy, could you let Michelle in, please?
We did not
there's
meet
Michelle.
this week. Betsy.
Sorry, forgot to unmute. I don't see anybody in the waiting room, but I just let somebody in called iPhone.
Excellent. That
Oh,
looks
that's
like
Michelle.
Okay.
but she's mute. Yuri, you want to try this again?
We did not meet this week.
Thank you. PTB, same story. We did not meet. Michelle, do you postpone that until before our next meeting? Is that?
That's correct.
Thank you. Curriculum policy, Joanne. We may have Joanne back.
I don't know if I'm on here or not.
Oh yeah, we can hear you, or I can hear you.
Okay, I've been trying to get on since 6 o'clock. I'm not real thrilled. We had a meeting and we discussed concussions, drugs, and tobacco. And you've got them all tonight.
Excellent, thank you. Student representatives, we don't have one of those right now. Administrator report, all principals. Do we have an order of reporting out on this? Gail.
Hi there. So I'm reporting out on how everything started the year. The students came in with a positive attitude and a face mask on all. We've got tiger paws thanks to Dan and his crew. So the kids are learning a 6-foot distance, which is tough, but they're hanging in there and sanitizing every time they pass a bottle of hand sanitizer. So until this week, we were very upbeat and glad to be back.
Thank you. Who's up next?
Kelly?
Kelly.
Good evening. So like Gail, up until this week, we had a wonderful start to having our students back with us. And that's just, it was so great to see the kids and have them back. We have all been amazed at their ability to come off and with masks on and sanitize their hands, and they're working too on their distancing, but the pause for the stencil has worked out really well in helping us to do that. They seem to be doing a wonderful job with the we have our playground in zones, so they stay within their pods, and I'm amazed at how positive they are, even with these circumstances. It's been interesting because the students have often expressed how much they like not being in a cafeteria setting and like being in the small group in the classroom eating with their teacher. And so that's been kind of an interesting thing as I've walked through and talked with them. One little boy said, "I'm not sure who invented the cafeteria, but I like this a lot better." So they love the food. They like sitting in the quiet space eating with their teacher. And then finally, I just wanted to make sure that I recognized Nadia Rio and Catherine Robitaille. They are 2 teachers from TES who have been selected to join the Moose curriculum team through the DOE, which is writing curriculum for main schools to use with students. And so they've joined that team. So now we have 3 teachers, one at the high school and those 2 teachers working on that curriculum. So we're very proud of that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Can I add one more thing? I have to say our pickup and our drop off, it was something that I lost a lot of sleep over thinking about how that's going to go, but I've been amazed and people have been fantastic. Our parents have been super patient and they've done a wonderful job. So everything's gone really well with that.
Excellent. Thank you. And thanks for, as a parent, participating in that process. Thanks for making it run so smoothly. Doug.
Good evening. Very much like you've heard previously, it really hasn't been. It has been an incredible start to the year. The big issues that staff seem to be concerned about were the kids being able to keep their masks on. That really has not been an issue. It really doesn't. It hasn't been. You know, the kids do still need to work on what a 6-foot distance is while they're playing, because you know you get hyped up when you're playing tag or you're playing. Soccer, you know, kicking a ball around, et cetera. So that can be a little challenging, but beyond that, it really has not been an issue. Custodians are working incredibly hard. And I think I mentioned this at our last meeting. Our custodian, Dave Curtis, has spray painted silhouetted gator heads 6 feet apart. Well, we started on the, it's been interesting. We started on the front walk all the way down the front walk in green. And then, of course, we had some kids going around the corner. So I said, Mr. Dave, do you think you could put a few more around the corner? So, of course, you know, he took care of that. Then we started realizing, you know, the littles might have a little bit harder time with that when they're heading out to recess. So it was some of the teachers, Mr. Dave, do you think that you could maybe put a few along this path? So all told, I think he's doubled or tripled. He knocked out another 140, 150 like last Wednesday. So I don't think there's a spot you can walk on a tarred surface where you can't figure out how far 6 feet is. So he's done a really amazing job. It looks great. It really does. I think some adults might, you know, be able to use that too. You know, it would be awesome. I would also like to say, too, a big thank you to Dan Labrie in the facilities department on a couple of fronts. The first one is our playgrounds have not been set up yet, but they were delivered. And so the kids are chomping at the bit with that. We're hoping that we're able to stay in session so we could maybe benefit from that, have the kids actually enjoy it. And the other thing that Dan has gone above and beyond is essentially licking the parking and pickup and drop off issue that we've had at Green. It's been really challenging. Last couple of years I've been there, and Dan's done an amazing job. He's come in coordinated with the Androscoggin County Sheriff's Office, and we now have essentially, it's a whole separate lane. So Main Street is much safer and not blocked off nearly as much as it has been. So it's been let's try it, let's tweak it, let's see, you know, so there've been a couple, 3 iterations, but really now, thanks to the parents, we've got it much smoother than it has been. And I think a lot of the parents like the idea of not having to get out of their vehicle to pick up their kiddos. It's a lot safer. And then as far as the inside of the building, of course, we've been doing a lot of community building through morning meetings. We've been really focused on the kids' social, emotional well-being where they were out of school for five plus months. Also, our staff is doing an amazing job training with the students on platforms and devices in the likely event, hopefully not, but in the event that we may have to go remote at a moment's notice. And that's kind of how things are at Green. We are plugging right along with positive attitudes and support for our students.
Excellent. Thank you. Eben.
So I would reiterate what I mentioned at the last meeting. It's been a really good start to the school year. The last 2 weeks have had a couple of more roadblocks than the first, I guess, but everybody's taking it in stride. We're navigating being out of school today, and we picked up on Google Classroom where we would be if students were on their remote days anyway. So that helped out quite a bit. And We had coordinated to have some stuff picked up here by some students and parents today in a very tight turnaround time. And I want to thank the parents and family members who were able to make it work in their schedule today to come pick those things up, because that was hard to do in a fairly quick turnaround time and not the greatest time to come pick those things up. So we got a lot of that handed out today. Students have settled right in. It doesn't take long to establish a routine, and we have started to do that. From somebody mentioned lunches in the classroom, from lunches in the classroom to directions in the hallway and having to go one-way traffic. It's been a very smooth transition to doing school in a way that students in my building have been doing that for a long time. So they're really ingrained in what school's supposed to look like. And this really hasn't been even in that same ballpark. So they've handled it well. And even though we're out this week, I'm hoping we can continue that momentum as we move on later into the fall.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go next.
Excellent.
So I've got lots of positives to share from Leeds Central School as well. The teachers have been sharing stories of the kids and how well they've been doing. They're doing much better at wearing the masks than we had anticipated they would be, with few reminders. The kids understand why we need the masks and they're willing to wear them without complaint. One of the hard things we've had to do is keep the cohorts separated at recess. So we have some painted lines on the grass, but they figured out that if they sit, on one side of the line in their section, and then their friend from another cohort can sit on the grass at least 6 feet away, they can still have a conversation. So that's really cute to see that happening at a lot of different recesses where the kids are socializing with their friends from other cohorts in a socially responsible way. One of our 6th grade classes Leeds is very small, and some of those kids this is their 8th year in that school, and the class of 6th graders is quite small, so many of them know each other really well, and they miss each other if they're not in the same cohort. So one of those classes has been leaving video messages for the other, and they really look forward to hearing their video messages and then doing one back to their friends in the other cohort. So that's been kind of fun. Our PTC has just been amazing. They did a really nice chalk display for us on the sidewalk coming in, welcoming us, telling our staff how important they are to their students, and just making everybody smile. So we've appreciated all this parental support that we've gotten. Teachers are really excited about how much they're able to get done in the 2 days that they have the students in person. They're just amazed that with such small groups in their classroom that they can get done twice as much work as they had anticipated. And the kids are really picking up and starting to really take off. Let's see. One of the things that is the fact that school does provide some normalcy for kids. So one of the teachers shared that when her class talks about their highs and lows, the kids say their high is coming into school and their low is leaving again and not being able to come back for 5 school days or 5 days until they have another school day. So I don't think, before the pandemic that we heard those kind of things from kids, especially 5th and 6th graders. So that's really heartwarming to know that they appreciate everything we're doing, and they have a new appreciation for school and the benefits that brings to them. And let's see, there was one other thing here. I guess it's overall the appreciation of parents too, that how much they know how hard we've worked and what we do for kids. And parents have made comments along the lines of like, wow, it's been hard with my 2 or 3 kids home. I don't know how you do it with a whole class of kids. So that's been really nice. And I think that people are learning new ways to teach and learn, and that we're going to have some real positive things that come out of this situation.
Excellent. Thanks, Danielle. Where does that leave us?
I think Ryan.
Oh, he moved on my screen. He's here someplace.
Yes. He might be on page 2.
Ryan, are you out there?
Ryan's been cutting in and out. I suspect he's probably having internet problems.
Okay. Well, we can certainly table Ryan's component of this until he is able to get the technology. Oh, I can see him again. You want to give it a try, Ryan? Is the internet working okay? We can see.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So Turner Primary School had a great start to the school year. There was a lot of positive energy from our community and from our students and from our staff. And the students have done a great job following all of the new procedures and routines. And our word of the month at Turner Primary School is respect. So the teachers have been working really hard embedding that word into all of the routines and procedures and into the morning meeting in the classrooms. And we're about to celebrate our Students of the Month. Of course, it's going to look a little bit differently. So there might be a different way to celebrate those students. Turner Primary School had a successful picture day, and the students have really enjoyed being able to learn outside and enjoying the fresh air, and we've had beautiful weather. And of course, in celebration for fall, a lot of our classes are doing different fall-like activities and themes. And finally, we're going to be hosting a virtual book fair October 5th through the 18th. And it's where families can order literature and have it delivered directly to their house. So there's no exchanging of money, and it's all done virtually. So we're really excited to continue to support the beginning of the school year and to continue to support literacy at Turner Primary School. And we are really excited to be able to come back safely in a week.
Excellent. Thanks, Ryan. Any board members have any questions for any of the administrators that have reported out, or? Tremendously positive start. Thank you for all the effort that's gone into that. Teresa, did you were just off of mute. Did you have something you wanted to share as well at this point, or you're just
No, I'm trying to maneuver things on my screen, so I'll mute myself again.
It's the wonders of modern technology. It's wonderful. Kim.
Thank you. So I want to start with some good news. At our last board meeting, we discussed the fact that last spring, as soon as we were able to access the CARES Act funding, we ordered devices with the goal of having a one-to-one device for all of our students to start school this fall. Unfortunately, fulfilling those orders has been challenging for companies. And so we still don't have some of those devices that we ordered. We did, however, get the iPads in. And so Randy and the technology teacher team, they have been working, I would say feverishly, over the last period of time to get the iPads set up and ready to give to students. In the meantime, Randy and the team have located some older laptops. So they have been busy reconfiguring those older laptops, testing them to make sure that they can support both Google Classroom and Zoom. And they can. And so the good news is that all of our elementary students will be able to get a device between October 1st and October 8th. So when students return next Thursday. And this is a big, big deal because teachers have been working really hard to provide and continue learning through paper packets for the children. But we know that having the technology and access to Seesaw and Google Classroom will be much better, will be a much better support for learning. So devices will be able to be given out between October 1st and October 8th, and we are really happy about that. So I have several things here. The next thing would be that, as you know, state subsidy is driven by student enrollment based on the October 1st count, actually 2 October 1st counts averaged together. During the pandemic, many districts are experiencing a drop in enrollment as certain families choose to send their students to a private school or to homeschool students as well. And so we're watching that because if we have a drop in student enrollment, that will translate into a drop in state subsidy. Now, what makes that even more challenging is that there's a high likelihood that when the pandemic is behind us, that many of our students will be coming back to our schools. So we could have a mix of less state subsidy and back to more students again. So we're watching this closely. I asked Jason to pull the data for me. And from October 1st, I wanted to know how many families have pulled students from our district. So as of September 21st, this Monday, 121 students have exited since August 1st. Now, 50 of those could potentially be related to superintendent's agreements. And so I'm going to have Martha do a comparison of how many students we have going to other districts on superintendent's agreements and how many out of district students we have coming in on superintendent's agreements. And we do this each year. We take a look at this, and generally it's very close. The number leaving is pretty much the same as the number of students coming in. So if you assume that that's what the 50 were, that still leaves us with 71 students fewer than what we had starting on October 1st. So we are watching this closely, and I will keep the board apprised. So I wanted to also talk to us about our current reality. So we currently have 4 confirmed positive cases, and we also have additional probable cases now in one of our elementary schools in Turner. So I want to take a moment to publicly thank Nurse Maria Jaffoon, Principal Ryan Patry, Nurse Michelle Lenfest, and Principal Gail Marine, as well as Nurse Krista Murray and Principal Eben Shaw, because over the past few days, these 3 nurses and these 3 principals have spent a huge amount of time working together, working with me, working with the state and the CDC, and doing the tracing we have to do to identify close contacts, and then actually contacting every single close contact personally so that questions could be answered about what that meant and what next steps would be. So there's been a lot of work. I know that Eben and Krista and I got to spend more time together on Saturday evening and Sunday than we probably would have preferred. But Teresa also spent a lot of time with Maria and Ryan last Thursday afternoon and evening. And it has continued like this. So thank you to those people who, no one has said anything except for, okay, are we doing everything right? Let's get this done. Let's make sure we're letting staff know. And so the process has been difficult, and it's new to all of us. There's no playbook for this. So I really appreciate all of the professionalism and the thoroughness with which this work is being done at this time. So we had on Tuesday, we found out that we had, well, first of all, let me back up from that. We implemented the hybrid model. And as all of the principals have said, we've had overwhelmingly positive feedback based on those in-person days. Of course, we all wish students were in person every single day, right? That's what we want. And eventually we'll be back there. But we have had really great feedback about those 2 in-person days. So my goal is to be able to keep providing those 2 in-person days, hopefully forever, until we're back to normal, but definitely for as long as we can. So I've always got that in the back of my mind. On Tuesday, when we discovered we had our 4th confirmed positive in 4 school days, basically. So 4 school days, 4 positives across several Turner schools. And that meant that we had approximately 16 teachers who were going to be quarantining and close to 80 students who were going to be quarantining. And looking at that and thinking of what can we do so that this doesn't turn into, we have to go remote now. And so I made the decision to work with the CDC, of course, and the DOE, made the decision to close the schools for the week, because that is the recommendation from the state and the CDC, to let the buildings be dormant for that period of time, no hosts in there, and to do cleaning and more cleaning during that time, so that when students come back, we have hopefully a very good chance of resuming with a hybrid model for a period of time. We will see what happens. The fact that we now have additional probable cases is not the trend I was looking for, but we will see where it is. And I will keep everyone informed. What we are doing is we're making sure that we are following DOE guidance around informing the school community when we have a confirmed positive for a probable case. And then I have put out some all district messages as well to keep people informed, so everyone knows where we are and what we're doing. Does anybody have any questions about any of that at this time?
Richard?
Have we had any teachers test positive?
So yes, confidentiality is so important and we have to guard that, but I can tell you yes.
Thank you. Any other questions for Kim at this point in the process? If not, I presume you have even more to share.
I do have more. Okay, some more good news is that, you know, we got the coronavirus relief funding, $1.6 million, and that has to be spent and accounted for by December 30th. So the timeline is very, very short. And the administrative team worked together very closely to identify what we needed most. These are funds that have to be used only for things that have been directly impacted by COVID, and they cannot supplant the budget in any way. We're about to get a part 2 to the coronavirus relief funding. Don't know exactly what that allocation is, but I imagine it will be, again, a substantial amount of money. So in talking with the principals on Tuesday, I did mention to start thinking, what is it that we still are noticing that we need, what's going to help us? And we will be having to move very, very quickly on that work. I know Michelle has been instrumental in putting together that budget. The process is that we work together to identify how best to use that money within the guidelines that we can use it. And then we put the budget together and Michelle physically puts the budget together. Then I have to submit it and it has to be approved. Once it's approved, we can start accessing those funds. So I will keep you apprised once we know what that second part is going to look like for us. So this is wonderful because it is costing a lot of money to do a hybrid model during this time. So it's wonderful to have the financial support. It is also a challenge because it does require, again, more work, and the timeline is very short. And it feels like almost everything right now has a very short timeline. But we will get it done and get it done well, because that's what everybody keeps doing in this team. The trustees, the Levitt trustees had put on their agenda item for a recent meeting that they would discuss those trees that I shared with the board at the last meeting were rotten and had to come down. And Eben, would you like to talk a little bit about the result of that? And you had an idea, I think.
Yeah, I can. So I was at that meeting. It did come up. Purchasing new trees didn't seem like something that the trustees were going to take on at this time. However, I had kind of an idea that popped in my head, ran it by the staff member that was going to be impacted before I said anything to anybody else to make sure that it was going to work. But I believe that our Exploring River Valley class is going to take on this project to do some fundraising, talk with some vendors, figure out what kind of trees we need down there, work with Dan to figure out placement and those sorts of things. And we'll get some trees purchased and planted down there on the green to replace the ones that came down.
Excellent.
Thank you, Eben. And I think that's a fantastic opportunity for students to be involved in something that will last forever, well, for a long, long time.
Right.
Thank you. Okay, the more good news, which will fall back to Evan in a second, is that it looks like we are about to have one or maybe 2 student reps.
Excellent.
Yes, it's me again. So I reached out to some students last week, heard back from one today via email. Olivia Morel, she is a senior here at the high school. She's active in student government and virtually everything. She does a lot around here, but she's very interested and anxious to join us on the board and will be available for the next board meeting.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Excellent.
It's always nice to have student perspective as we work through these things.
Absolutely. And then my last thing would be, Dan, would be actually for you. So Doug and Dan and I have discussed back and forth, and I know Yuri had asked a question about it as well. We're looking into a sign, some kind of sign for Green Central School, right? That this is a school zone type of thing. And I know that Dan had on his list that he was going to look into the cost. And I don't know, Dan, where we are in that process. We may not be there yet.
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't heard back from the contractor that I reached out to that takes care of the one in Turner. But it is in their hands to get back to us about putting one of those up there.
Perfect. Thank you. And that would be it for me, Betsy.
Thank you. That's a fairly large volume of things going on. So thank you for sharing all of that information. That brings us to public comment. And since we are virtual again, we have our school board email that folks are able to utilize as a means of sharing their thoughts and public comment. Teresa, what do we have for emails?
I have one this evening. Would you like me to just go ahead and read it?
I think that would be delightful. Thank you.
Okay, this is from Lori Whitmore. She writes, I would like to know why our school bus drivers and van drivers are not getting paid while the school is shut down. The school not being open 5 days a week already puts a financial hardship on these employees. They are down 12 hours per pay period. But now that the Turner campuses are closed, most are not getting paid at all. They have a contract with the school and it should be honored. Imagine if all of a sudden you were told you're not going to get paid to do your job through no fault of your own. The money is already budgeted for the school year and these individuals need to be paid. That is what our tax money is for. They should be paid the 12 hours they are missing each pay period as well. They are available to work, they just can't. And let me make sure there's no more. Nope, that's all that's there tonight.
Thank you. Kim, you have your hand up.
So I always appreciate when the board asks for more information at some point to allow us to gather some information, bring it back. For this evening, if you would like to do that process, that's great. If you would like me to speak to that comment at this point, I could do that as well.
If you, as you indicated, typically the public comment process is folks share their questions, concerns. Sometimes it's something positive. I mean, dare to dream. That's always good. And the board generally does direct kind of a search for additional information. But I know we have also had situations where if either yourself or one of the other administrators feels ready to speak to something or provide additional information, that would be terrific as well. So if you find yourself in that position, that would be most appreciated.
Okay, so we've had remote Wednesdays since we began school, and we have work that needs to be done. And a lot of that is cleaning work. And it's just, cleaning.
75, right?
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
Michelle? Oh, no, that's okay. She's off mute again.
Okay. Good. So in any case, so we have work that we need to do. And so for those remote Wednesdays, as well as for this closure, we are offering our bus drivers, our drivers, if they would like to work, there is cleaning work that can be done. And we would be happy to have them do that work. They don't have to choose to do that work. If they do that work, of course, they're going to be paid for it. If they don't do that work, they choose not to do that work, then they get paid for the days that they do drive, but not for the days that they don't work.
Thank you. And Teresa, you indicated that there were not any other emails at this time.
That is correct.
Thank you. That brings us to old business. 7.1, update on fall sports. Mr. LaRoche, are you?
I am ready.
Fantastic.
So we started fall sports season, and of course now we are on hold right now due to the 2 positive COVID cases in our building and the 4 in the district. We plan to return full-on practices, games, meets, matches next Thursday afternoon. I've been busy trying to reschedule what I can for the games that were missed over these 2 weeks. At this point, we have 45 girls out for soccer, 44 boys for soccer, 16 athletes out for cross country, 12 athletes out for golf, 32 for field hockey, and 58 for football. So just over 200 total athletes, or about 1/3 of our student body. We had 6 golf matches scheduled, but we lost 4 of them due to our first positive COVID test this past week. Most of our team was affected by that. And the golf team will be having 2 matches next week when we come back, and we'll head to the KVAC Championships on October 6th at Nantanas. This will also serve as the state championship qualifier. We had 4 cross-country meets scheduled, but we lost 2 of them due to the coronavirus. One during the first phase where we lost a group of coaches and athletes, and now a second because there are 2 communities who aren't comfortable sending their athletes to us just 2 days after we return from our quarantine. But we still have 2 more meets after that, and we are waiting on the MPA now for what they're going to do about cross-country championships. We have 10 games scheduled each for varsity girls and boys soccer, with 8 games each for their JV teams. And we may add a JV game or 2 as we go. It looks like I'm going to add at least 1 JV game tomorrow. We have 10 games scheduled for varsity field hockey, with 8 for their JV squad. As of right now, I have 5 games scheduled for the football 7-on-7 with 5 JV games, and hoping to add at least 2, and it's up to as many as 5 more. 7-on-7 football is like a touch football that is being offered as a replacement as the MPA postponed complete contact football into the spring, into the spring of 2021. This is something to keep the boys active. We're also looking at opening up the weight room on a limited basis. And we're also looking at some activities that are kind of like a combine where there'll be some skills competition amongst the boys. None of the sports that I mentioned after cross country will have championships this year due to the coronavirus and the recommendations put out by the MPA. The other piece that I probably need to update you on is spectators. Looking across the state, some of the conferences that decided not to allow any spectators at any events at all of their everything for sports and activities. That includes the Southern Maine Athletic Association and the Mountain Valley Conference. Our conference, the Kennebec Valley Athletic Conference, has decided to not allow any away spectators at any events, which leaves the decision about home spectators to each individual district. Just for clarification, the MPA, along with the governor's office, the CDC, the Maine DOE, and DHHS, have limited the number of people allowed to any venue at a time at 100 total people. They made it very clear that all of the people participating and officials are counted in this number. This clearly limits the number of spectators that could be allowed into an event. For background on what's going on within the KVAC conference, about 1/3 of the districts have decided to not allow fans at all season. No fans at any games. About 1/3 are looking at allowing a limited number of fans in their facilities, but in order to do that, they're asking teams to have their junior varsity teams wait outside the facility until after the varsity games are completed. Then they're going to clear all of the fans and the players and the officials from the varsity match out, and then allow the JV teams to come in. That means the JV athletes won't be able to watch the varsity game, which is a way that most of them learn how to see how the game is played. And the JV coaches, who also oftentimes serve as the varsity assistant coaches, will have to monitor the JV teams, either sitting on the bus or in a separate facility, in order to be away and watch those kids. That leaves about 1/3 of our district, or our conference left. 1/6 of the districts are undecided, like we are at this point, and about 1/6 are allowing only senior parents into 1 senior recognition game for each sport. That's where I feel we need to probably land as a district, looking at just allowing spectators to come to the 1 senior recognition game for each sport. Each year, one game, we recognize the seniors, the parents come out to the field. Usually there's flowers or carnations that are given to the parents by the kids, which come from the booster clubs. There are multiple reasons why I think this is where we need to stand. The first being that we're not allowing the JV players and coaches to be in the stadium until varsity games are done in order to allow 20, 25 parents to watch the games. This is difficult as the coaches, as they're not really able to help these athletes develop by being part of the varsity games. And it also is a burden on the coaching staff that isn't necessarily necessary, but they would have to monitor the kids until the game is over. Second reason, after adding up the rosters, the coaches, the game staff, the administration, the athletic trainers, possible press coverage and possible medical emergency staff, we'd only be looking at between 30 and 15 spectators for each event to keep the total at the event under 100. Number three, how do we fairly decide which parents can come in and which ones cannot? Number four, once we decide which ones can come in and which cannot, we'd probably need to have security, which means we'd have an extended pay out of our budget to help us monitor who comes in and who does not come in. And that will add up as a cost over the season, where we have about 20 home games between now and the end of the fall. And then fifth, with the positive tests in the community right now going on, this allows us to limit the number of people coming into our campuses for these events to the necessary only people, the players, the athletes, the officials, the coaches, the athletic trainer, and the administrators. So our recommendation is to just have fans come only to home games on the night of the senior recognition games. I think that's all I've got.
Thanks, Ryan. So at this point, do folks have questions for Mr. LaRoche on how the process is going? If there's other Richard?
My take would be to allow the JV teams and their coaches to observe the games and not have any parents there.
Thank you. Other questions for Ryan or thoughts folks have on this? Kim?
So my thought is, Ryan, thank you so much, because you have done an incredible amount of work through this whole process as we learn what sports can look like for the fall, and then figuring out what that can mean for spectators now, and keeping what's best for students at the heart of all of those decisions. And having our students be able to actually participate is definitely how you're basing that decision. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Kim, do this is not an area where the board needs to do anything. This is simply a report out, and certainly I would echo your thanks to Ryan and all the work that's gone into, reimagining what all of this might look like, and certainly the suggestion around making sure that our student athletes have the ability to access those sports as a priority, and to still hopefully get a little bit of that experience for our senior athletes and their family as well sounds appealing. I think I started that out as a question and then meandered off into something else. So I don't know if it was clear what I was saying or asking.
So I don't think the board needs to take action. However, if the board would like to take action to support Ryan's proposal around spectators, that would be up to the board. Really, the intent for tonight was to inform the board of the direction in which we plan to head.
Mm-hmm. So I would leave that to the board's pleasure. If someone wished to make a motion in support of what's been suggested, that certainly would be acceptable. If folks are okay with simply supporting it or not supporting it, certainly if you have other comments that you'd like to make around it, that would be acceptable as well. Jessica?
So mine's a comment. Is this an evolving process, Ryan? So if the kids come back for a while and then maybe we have to go remote again, and if those senior parents don't ever get that opportunity to get to senior night, I mean, is there the possibility that there's
some other,
this is going to be relooked at, maybe like?
Yeah, so right now I've tried to set up the senior recognition nights in the first week or two of the regular season. So in case we come back for a week or two and then we end up with another sort of quarantine, we've gotten them in. Obviously, we could move those dates as need be to try to get the senior parents to get to these games. I wouldn't say, oh, no, we didn't play the game versus Lewiston the first week, so no senior night. It may end up turning into a senior afternoon for some of the teams that normally may play at night, like the boys and girls soccer. We moved to a night game for them for that. But we wouldn't take away the opportunity for the senior parents to see a game if there were more home games after a quarantine were to end.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So it seems that folks are supportive of this. As Kim indicated, it isn't a scenario where we need to have a motion in support of it, but certainly do appreciate all the work that's gone into getting us to this point. Anybody else want to weigh in on this one? If not, thanks again, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that we can make these things happen for our kiddos. That brings us to the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion
So
for
moved.
the list.
Second,
Who made the motion?
I
Carlos.
did.
Carlos. I should have known if Richard was. Thank you. Carlos and Richard, and we will do our magical roll call vote. Richard,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
thank you. Crystal,
Yes.
thank you. Yuri,
Yes.
thank you. Jessica,
Yes.
thank you. We never did get Jo. Oh no, there's Joanne. Joanne, there you are. I'm reading lips, and I think she's saying yes. I'm going to take that as a yes, and head nodding. Excellent, thank you. Carlos,
Yes.
thank you. Jill,
Yes.
thank you, and me, yes as well. All right, that brings us to agenda item 9.1, and this one is an approval of cash donation to Tripp Middle School for outdoor activities.
So moved.
So second.
Richard and Carlos. Any discussion on this one? Seeing none, we will go back to our roll call. Richard,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Crystal,
Yes.
Yuri,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Joanne. Yes, I'm seeing the head nodding. Carlos,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
and yes for me as well. That's a very generous donation, and we're very fortunate on that. 9.2, approval of donation of hand soap, liquid hand sanitizer, spray bottles, and face masks from Northland True Value.
So moved.
Second,
Carlos and Richard. Any discussion on this one? If not, back to our roll call. Richard,
yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Crystal,
Yes.
Yuri,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Joanne.
I think I figured it out. Yes.
Excellent, thank
Maybe
you.
I didn't figure it out.
Oh no, you did. We got you. Whatever it was, that worked. Carlos,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
and yes for me as well. Thank you. 9.3, and these approval of deletion of policy. The wording's a little awkward here. Deletion of policy JJIF, management of concussions and other head injuries and exhibits. JJIF-E1, management of concussions info sheet. JJIF-E2, concussion progressive return to play procedures.
So moved.
Would be the Carlos and Richard show. Discussion on this one?
Betsy, I didn't know if you wanted me to explain, this is Teresa.
Yes, please.
I know that in the past, we typically have done a first reading on one meeting and then a second reading the following meeting.
Yes.
We talked this through in my office because if we delete these policies and then don't do first and second readings for 9.4, we end up without a policy. So we felt it was important to have this policy in place. And I want to thank Principal Shaw, Athletic Director, LaRoche and Nurse Krista Murray, because we began work on this in the winter of 2020. And the changes that we're proposing are the result of changes in the law. And also our athletic trainer, Nancy, at the high school has been super instrumental. She came up with a proposal that the DOE came out with something very similar a few weeks later. So what you see tonight really is really what Nancy was aligned with, and she has a lot of experience with training and with concussions. So.
Excellent. Thanks for the explanation on that. Any other discussion on this one? And this is the deletion. If not, Richard?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Crystal?
Yes.
Yuri?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Joanne? Uh-oh. We jinxed it by talking about how well that worked on the last one. So Joanne's missing at the moment. Carlos?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
And yes for me as well. So that brings us to 9.4, and 9.4 is first and second reading and adoption of policy JJIF, management of concussions and other head injuries and exhibits JJIF-E1, graduated academic re-entry guidelines after concussion JJIF-E2, school accommodations for post-concussion effects JJIF-E3, management of concussions and other head injuries resource guide JJIF-E4, student and parental information sheet and acknowledgement form.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Carlos and Richard. Discussion on this one.
It will add quite a few pages to our policies, but that's got to be done. It's rather voluminous.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this one? It sounds like there's a fair bit of work that went into it as far as aligning our practices with what the best thinking is on the whole process around concussions. Is that accurate, Teresa?
Yes, it is.
Well, thanks to everybody that participated in that. That's a fairly important topic. Any other discussion? Richard?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Crystal?
Yes.
Yuri?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Did we get Joanne back? Not so much. Carlos? Oh,
Yes.
no, it's not Joanne. Jill?
Yes.
And yes for me as well. That brings us to 9.5, first reading and acceptance of revised policy ADC, and this is tobacco use and possession.
So moved.
Second.
Carlos and Richard. Discussion on this one. Seeing none. Richard?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Crystal?
Yes.
Yuri?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Joanne is absent. Carlos?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
And yes for me as well. Item 9.6. First reading and acceptance of revised policy JICH. And this is student drug, alcohol, and tobacco use and review of regulation JICHR, MSAD 52, student drug, alcohol, and tobacco use administrative procedure.
So moved.
So moved.
And that was Richard and Carlos. Discussion on this? I wonder on this one in particular, and I should have asked on the previous one, are these policies substantially different in that what students receive in a student handbook or something like that is impacted by any of these changes? Do we run the risk of missing any communication there?
Eben, do you want to answer, or do you want me to, or?
I can try. I mean, Betsy, I don't think there's substantial substantive change to the policy language itself. It's more, in my perspective, it's more around wording and names of individuals that will be accessing to support the policy than it is the actual policy itself.
So in that case, there really shouldn't, it isn't a scenario where, oh gosh, you changed the policy after I had no idea that was not a thing I could do at school.
No.
It will have implications for visitors, but there are signs that are posted. I mean, I think it could have implications, and we're making this in line with the legislation that changed last year.
And at the same time, we're not really seeking out a lot of visitors right now either.
That is true. So it's probably not going to be an issue today or tomorrow.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this one? If not, Richard,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Crystal,
Yes.
Yuri,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Joanne, I think is back.
Yes, yes, I think it's back.
Thank you. Carlos,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
and yes for me as well. That brings us to item 9.7, approval to begin the process of naming Leavitt Area High School's auditorium in memory of Elaine Chenard per policy FF, naming new and existing facilities.
So moved.
Second.
Carlos and Richard. Discussion on this one.
It's long overdue.
Other discussion on this one? Eben?
Betsy, I'm bringing this forward on behalf of the trustees. I was approached by the trustees as this being a possibility, and quite honestly, I'm glad that they did. It's been kind of an idea around the building for a while that we do something to honor Miss Chenard. I'm both excited and quite honestly humbled to have the opportunity to be a part of this process. I don't know. I don't necessarily know what the next step is, which is why we came forward. The naming of a part of the district, a facility or a space is relatively not utilized. I can't think of perhaps the last time it was done is when and I'm going to put in air quotes, new wing was put on TES and it was named for Mr. Pease. It may have been the last time that we have done this process. So I don't have the step-by-step way in which we would go through it. But I don't think we're going to have a problem with I'm going to use a term that's normally used in disciplinary hearings, but the bifurcation that's needed to support such a request. So I'm more than willing to get that thing going and take whatever role you need me to do and get this going. But for those of you who don't know, Ms. Chenard worked at Leavitt. She started as a teacher in 1960 and worked here in some capacity basically through, I think it was 2004. So as a counselor and assistant principal, teacher, all around good person, coach, mentor, all that good stuff. So I think this is, as Richard said, long overdue and well-deserved. The trustees, just so everyone knows what the plan is, the trustees would like to do, if this is approved by the board, the trustees would like to do some fundraising to purchase a bronze plaque to hang in the lobby of the auditorium, as well as start an account to help to fund some small basic upkeep with the auditorium as well.
Excellent, thank you. So interestingly enough, I did read policy FF, which suggests that the process consists of the board chair forming a committee for further work on this. So that makes a really nice segue that I'm interpreting your description there, that you, Mr. Shaw, would be an interested party in that sort of committee.
Yeah, I knew that was coming, so I just figured I'd volunteer ahead of time.
Excellent. I appreciate that. So I think probably from a procedural standpoint, we ought to have a motion to that effect, directing me as chair to continue the process.
So moved.
Second.
And we might have even already had that. So I'm asking you to move again. Looking at my notes, Carlos and Richard already made a motion of that sort. So I guess I was just explaining the process. And I am aware of a couple other, shall we say, volunteers for that process as well. But if there are any board members who are interested in being involved in those conversations, also, please do let me know on that. Any other discussion on this one? Richard? Oh,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
So I just have questions on and I can wait until after the motion to see if the motion passes first, but I just have some questions about process before we get too deep into it.
Yes, absolutely. We'll go through the vote and then talk about next steps. Richard?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Crystal?
Yes.
Yuri?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Carlos?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
And yes, for me as well. So process / timeframe, the policy is pretty skinny as far as details. So I think we have a fair bit of latitude that this doesn't need to be a long drawn out sort of process, nor does it need to be a huge committee unless there was huge interest in serving on said committee. So I guess I would take direction either from board members or from you, Mr. Shaw, as far as whether you felt like there were a number of people that wish to be involved in the process or not.
I feel comfortable saying that I wouldn't have any difficulty getting a handful of people representing both staff and students to take part in this. If you have some individuals that you might know that are interested in also participating, I'd be more than willing to reach out to them as well. I probably have their phone number here on my desk, so I'd be glad to do that. And I honestly don't think it's going to take us a huge amount of time. If we get into, I don't know how many meetings we have in November or whatever, but I would anticipate we could pull something together and have a pitch to the board ready to go, certainly before the end of the calendar year.
That sounds excellent. And I, given Elaine's tremendous impact on the district, I'd certainly be happy to be involved in that process as well. Like you said, I don't think it needs to be a long drawn out process. I think it would be great to have some representation to, make sure we honor that that memory in the process as well. So that sounds excellent. We'll look forward to that, and you and I can certainly communicate on exact dates and timeline and all that excellent stuff. So,
all right.
Thank you very much. That brings us to 9.8 other. Do we have any other items of business that we need to take up this evening before we have a couple of executive sessions? Kim.
Yes, Betsy, Martha did put out a revised agenda today, which was later than we try to get it out, but it includes an instructional nomination.
Oh, sorry about that. Clearly I printed not that copy. So we should certainly take that up then.
Okay, so, and I'm really excited about this particular agenda item. So Green Central School Interview Committee is pleased to recommend Lauren Kalenda for the position of classroom teacher at GCS. Ms. Kalenda is a graduate of Northeastern University, where she earned a bachelor's degree in sociology and elementary education. And of course, she holds professional teaching credential for the state of Maine. She's worked previously at Turner Elementary School as a classroom teacher, as well as at Warren Prescott School and the Maurice J. Tobin Schools, which were both in Massachusetts. students. So her work has provided her with significant background experience with learners requiring varying levels of support, and her references cite her dedication and enthusiasm, work ethic, positive relationships with students, and strong instructional skills to support deep learning. So we are very happy to bring Lauren Kalenda as a nomination before the board this evening.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for this one?
Yes.
So moved.
Richard and Carlos. Richard,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Crystal,
Yes.
Yuri,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Joanne.
Yes.
Thank you. Carlos,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
and yes for me as well. Thanks for reminding me on that, Kim.
Absolutely.
Any other items of business that we need to take up before we move to executive sessions discussing compensation and one discussing TTEA negotiations? If not, I would entertain a motion for item 10, and that
So
is a
moved.
request for an
Actually, can I-
executive session.
Can I make a point of order just for a second? On the agenda that I have, which I believe is the most recent one, after the executive sessions, you have other business. That would have to be moved before the executive sessions, as we cannot come back to the meeting.
Yes, so I think that that may be redundant because my request just now in 9.8 for any other business we might take up. Hopefully we have covered that, but thank you for reminding me on that, and I will remind to check for the most recent agenda the next time I actually print it out. Sorry about that. So we did have a motion on the executive session, that was correct, Richard and
Yes.
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Crystal,
Yes.
Yuri,
Yep.
Jessica,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Carlos,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
and yes for me as well. So as we move to the executive session, Randy, this process looks like you backing out and transferring over administrator of the meeting to Kim. Is that her
I will
host?
stop the live stream, make sure it is stopped, and then I will make Kim the host again. And then when I leave, you know you're good to go.